Tufam Hilliard Etta is a former national vice chairman South-South of the All Progressives Congress (APC). In this interview, speaks on why Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State was screened out by the party, according to Clement James, who reports. Earlier on, you introduced yourself as the immediate past acting national chairman of the APC. Can you please explain how you became a national chairman? Okay, a question was being thrown to him. And he said, well, when the court decided that the SY national chairman, Comrade Adams Ushumole, had been suspended by his word, and the Court of Appeal agreed with the court of the first instance, members of the National Working Committee immediately resorted to the constitution of the party, and the constitution of the party is very clear as to the succession in times of assault, and the constitution clearly spells out the deputy national chairman from the zone of the national chairman would act in the absence of the national chairman. At that time, Senator Abiola Jimobi was incapacitated, and the constitution further states that in the event that he cannot act, that members of the National Working Committee shall choose among themselves who to act as the national chairman. And in that regard, 17 out of 20 members of the National Working Committee invited me to act as the national chairman, and that was until when the presidential pronouncement of the dissolution of the National Working Committee. But there were issues when the national secretary wanted to take over the leadership of the party. He said, well, you need to consult our constitution. The national secretary is in charge of the secretariat, and to be very candid, and at that time he was not the national secretary, because the national secretary at the time was architect Waziri Bulama, the person that laid claim abet unconstitutionally and illegally was the SY Deputy National Secretary. Now secretaries are not in the succession of the national chairman. In fact, secretaries are not in the succession of any chairman of a party, and so it was a travesty and unconstitutional. But there has been news flying recently that Adams Oshomole was coming back as the national chairman. Would that have been possible? He said, I don't know about bringing back Adams Oshomole, but I must tell you this. Since the presidential pronouncement, we have not been consulted. Even some of us who are still zonal chairmen, and even when we say we will not approach the court for redress for the sake of the party, the national vice chairman of the party were elected with two candidates as members of the National Working Committee, which was presidentially dissolved, but they were also elected as chairmen of their zones, and zonal executive committees have not been dissolved, so they remain chairmen of their various zones. I will tell you that they have never been consulted even after the dissolution of the NWC, which is quite sad. It gives an impression of a coup, because in the military culture, when you take over, it is a zero-sum enterprise. Every other person that was there has to be liquidated, and that is the kind of posture that we see even in the caretaker committee. But as the national vice chairman and the South zonal chairman, why were you not able to resolve the issues between Oshomole and Obaseki before he decamped to PDP? He said, well, politics is driven by personal interests, and their local issues and national issues, or even zonal issues. Sometimes issues thread through those hierarchies. It will not be true that efforts were not made for the reconciliation of the issues in Edo State. Unfortunately, those efforts perhaps were not enough, and it's culminated into Obaseki leaving the party, which is his right, and nobody can divest him of that constitutional right. And so we have an election between our candidates, Pastor Sageze Yamu, and the candidates of the People's Democratic Party, which is governor of Edo State, Obaseki. It is as simple as that. Elections must be contested by people. It just so happens that in this instance, the candidate of PDP was once the candidate of the APC, and the candidate of the APC was once the candidates of the PDP. That is unfortunately one of the recurrent decimals of our political firmament. Given the level of our political development, do you think that those things your former national chairman Ushomole said about Eze Yamu in the last election was not will not affect his chances? And he said, what you say because you want your candidate to be elected into office in most cases could be very damaging. No politician in Nigeria can claim that in the event that you are canvassing for your candidate, that you have not said terrible things about candidates of the opposing party. And so I cannot imagine having selected Obaseki at the time as a candidate of the party that Oshomole will allow the PDP candidates, no matter who he was at the time, to come and take the seat that he was vacating. So you must put in the perspective. I am not completely in support of the personalization of political contests in Nigeria. I believe that we must grow out of personalizing political contests, that we must bring issues that have bearing on the people and of the country into focus and prominence in contesting for political offices. But having been part of those who were trying to resolve the issues between Oshomole and Obaseki, would you open up on those things that did not allow them to reconcile before Obaseki moved to PDP? He said, first of all, let me tell you something. There is a misconception, which of course is politically profitable to Governor Obaseki, that there was an attempt by Comrade Adams Oshomole to teleguide Governor Obaseki and become a godfather. It is far from the truth. The truth is that when Obaseki took over power, he decided that the politicians who made him governor were expendable, and it was was in the defense of these politicians that the friction became evident between the two. Now, one can freely say that Ushomole was fighting the battle not for himself but for the political class of Edo APC. Now I know of godfathers and I know of godfatherism. Godfatherism is a system of teleguiding and remote controlling someone who may have benefited from either your political structure or resource to get into office. This never happened because one of the things that godfathers do in Nigeria is that they will always nominate people into your cabinet or nominate people to work with you. Governor Baseki himself has accepted that Adams Oshomole had only one commissioner in Edo State. And if you don't know, let me tell you, even until very late in the life of his administration, he never constituted boards of parastatals and companies in Edo State. So there was no opportunity for the supposed godfather to have nominated people into these institutions. So the question is, in what area was the thread of teleguiding or remote control? Was it in the business of governance or those who could help him supervise the governance of Edo? It is easy to talk about godfatherism because Nigerians will always like to listen to such things. But I would like that when they hear these kind of things, they do a bit of interrogation, because I am a politician and I know we like to play with the intelligence of people. I may not completely subscribe to that. In fact, I don't subscribe to that. But most politicians like to play with the intelligence of those they are supposed to lead. It is not true that the issues of Edo border on godfatherism. What is true is that Governor Baseki refused to accommodate the politicians who helped him into the office, and in an attempt to bridge that gap, acrimony erupted between him and the former national chairman. Another question was thrown to Iliad, which says Obaseki was qualified to run as a governor on the platform of APC, but he was screened out in the last screening exercise. Was he not qualified? He said, now, I was a member of the National Working Committee, not the screening committee. We selected the screening committee and we made sure they were Nigerians of impeccable character. You know, we had just come out of the Bayelsa experience and we decided that anybody that we pass through the refinery of the contest in our party must show absolute transparency in terms of its certifications and its claim, and given that even the PDP had earlier taken Obaseki to court and then were ruled out of time, and not because they did not have a provable case, or they did not have a provable case. So when all these things came to us, we decided to play on the side of caution, so that is exactly what happened. It was PDP that told us that Obaseki had 3 credits and so could not have been admitted into the University of Ibadan. It was the PDP that actually told us because they took him to court. So when he came the second time, we now said these are some of the things that PDP took you to court, and we want all of those gaps to be filled. And in the wisdom of the screening committee, Governor Baseki was unable to fill those gaps. This was the reason for his disqualification. Okay, so guys, can you hear what this man has said? So before, in the first place, that means it has to take the effort of PDP to tell you as at then that this man was not qualified. And if you are credible as a party, I don't know whether you guys subscribe to what this man has just said. If really you are credible in your party, you have that, what is it called, integrity, you follow due process, you ought to have known. So if PDP had not put that or brought that issue out, you guys wouldn't have known. Then how did you screen him in the first place before coming out? You see that is how they model up things. He has said a lot of things, but that area is what I really want to talk more about. So they didn't do their due diligence. And don't forget, there's still problem now between even the Izeyamu and the running mates. There are some issues that are not really too clear. So now they wouldn't have known, because Oshomole was saying that, oh, Obaseki never told him about his credentials and all of that. He didn't know that. So how you guys screen people even in the party is not even, it's illegitimate, it's illegal, because you do things shabbily. You see, it's an indictment on this man too, that you as a party, you don't even do your due diligence and know the right thing to do before going ahead. They do things anyhow, so it will take another party to correct them. You know that some other party members, political party, are taking them to court on the emergence of a Ezeyamu as APC candidate. They are still saying they don't have candidates. And again, the running mate of Ezeyamu, they see some kind of discrepancies in his credentials too. So again, they will still come and tell us that other party told them about it. You see what we are saying. So guys, let us hear your opinion concerning what he has said. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think and feel about this.